My story as an entrepreneur actually is very similar to the vast majority of very successful entrepreneurs in my area. And it didn't involve going to school for being an entrepreneur. It didn't involve necessarily coming up with an idea that was pretty remarkable and completely out of left field and blew everybody away. Although the guy who's next to me here did that, and was one of the cellular phone founders. But most entrepreneurs did something very simple. They went to work for somebody who was an entrepreneur. They ended up becoming some very important person in that business, to the point where they learned that business and then they just started their own thing. It's incredible how many times that's happened. That's basically what I did with my first business. My first business was a cosmetic surgery business. I was working for some big facelift conglomerate, and I was like, wow, okay, what are they doing here? There's just like lots of advertising, and then they drive people in and they do consults and they do a bunch of surgery. And so they pay a bunch of money to get people in the door, and maybe their margin's smaller, but they make a lot of money. Voila. Right. It's that simple. And once you know that somebody else is doing it for sure and doing it successfully, it can embolden you to do it yourself. Let me give you another example. I had these guys, this guy who used to live not too far away from me. He and his partner, business partner, they were a couple of Canadian guys. They worked for one guy. I was going to say a company, but they really worked for one guy. And his business was trading energy. It was energy arbitrage. I'd never heard of such a thing, right? But basically what they did is they bought energy from countries where it was cheap and sold it to countries where it was expensive. I asked the guy how he got into this, and he said, well, there was two of us that were doing all of the calls and, making all the acquisitions for the guys and selling everything. And one day we looked at each other and said, why aren't we doing this ourselves? So these guys probably making, 6 figures a piece. They go off and do it on their own. I don't know exactly how much money that guy made, but he had his second house in town, which he paid $8 million cash. Huge, huge money. There's nothing extraordinary about the guy. They just learned about this business no one else knew how to do, and they did because they were the guys who were doing it. I could keep going over and over. I have another friend who did that in a tile business. The only thing that's different about these guys is the business that they chose to emulate. If you want to be an entrepreneur and you're agnostic to how it is that you're going to make the money, try to work for a business where whoever owns it is making a lot of money. Go in there, learn everything, become the guy or the girl or whoever. If you do that and you know everything, every part that works in this business, go do it yourself. It works. Why would you go start from scratch, do a business that is made up? You have no idea if it's going to work. The business school students having all of their 100-page business plans, projections, all this stuff. Well, that's great. You have reality. You know exactly what to do. Go rip it off and do it yourself.